from voting.
And I haven't seen too much that Ron DeSantis has done for our people.
We have very dark stains in our history. It doesn't make us stronger to deny it, it makes us stronger to recognize it and to learn from it and to teach it and to expel those darker motives from humanity, from the future years we have. If our moral compass, if our governing compass is that we believe that everybody matters, that we believe the economy should work for everybody, that we believe government can be used to improve people's lives, access to healthcare and education, if we believe that everybody deserves to be celebrated, that's the easy part. Believe in better. Believe in something better. Believe that we are better. But believe that our leaders today don't represent better. They don't represent better. They're tearing us apart. We are a party strong enough to build a coalition bigger than just our party, to invite in our neighbors, and to finally turn the corner in the state of Florida. Thank you all very much for that.
For having me. Thank you for having this forum, for what you do to continue to make sure voters are informed. My wife and I live in Pinellas County. My father was a minister. We moved around the state a little bit, lived in Miami for 10 or 12 years, graduated from Pasco High, lived in Pensacola. I'm a fifth generation Floridian. My wife and I have two young kids. I had the opportunity to serve in Congress. I'm an attorney, had the opportunity to do about a decade worth of TV work. And the last part of my introduction is I do speak openly about my faith. It's a faith that I choose to practice. I share it because it's part of who I am, not to evangelize. But I also think in a state that launched culture wars in the name of faith, I believe the perversion of a faith 8 years ago. I think we need a governor willing to speak about their personal faith, but to realize it stops at the steps to the state house. And so that would be by way of introduction. Very quickly on the themes of this campaign. Listen, I think we're a nation in crisis. I think we're a nation that's broken. We're more divided than ever before. That's true here in the state of Florida. And so I'm running on three simple values. First, the economy should work for everybody. Second, government can do its part to improve our lives. And third, everyone's rights should be protected and their dignity celebrated, regardless of the color of your skin, where you were born, who you love, or who you worship. Look, the economy is working great for some people, but not for many. More people are going without health care than ever before. Half our state doesn't have enough savings to last 2 weeks. And in a state that abandoned public education, many families don't know where to educate their kids. And so government needs to do a little bit more, like we have done for the past 100 years, to invest in people's personal economy, largely housing, healthcare, and education. And then finally, the value that everyone's rights should be protected, whether that is reproductive freedom, voting rights, franchise, suffrage, but also the notion that everyone's dignity should be celebrated. Look, we're a state that launched culture wars to divide people based on the color of their skin, where they were born, who they love, or who they worship, and I think it's wrong. I think we're a state that is stronger when everybody has a seat at the table, when everyone is valued, when every community is lifted up.
I went to FAMU for 3 years, Florida State for 3 years, and really been blessed to live in this state. My wife Erica and I have been married for 23 years. We have three sons, and we've been able to build that Florida dream for ourselves and our lives. And when we started, we were working odd jobs. I was working two jobs. She was working two jobs, doing everything that was necessary to make ends meet and trying to figure out how to really put life together while also building a family. And I know that's what so many Floridians are having to do today. The reason I'm running is because I want to take my 17 years in the finance industry, having worked from the bottom on my way up in that industry, with my experience having served 4 years in the state legislature and 6 years in the United States House of Representatives, to answer the major questions that are facing Floridians. Number one, affordability. How do we lower property taxes? How do we lower property insurance and housing costs? Number two, how do we manage the growth that has come to Florida so people can get from point A to point B without being frustrated? And then number three, most importantly, how do we keep the beauty of Florida while we also continue to grow the promise of Florida? People have come here from all different walks of life. We have many people in Florida who are multi-generation, but it doesn't matter what your background is, what your politics are. People love this state. It's going to be the job of Florida's next governor to make sure that that Florida dream is alive and well. And I have the economics background, the private sector background, and the political experience to navigate Florida into the future. That's why I'm seeking the governor's mansion. Affordability is going to be the number one thing that we are going to tackle in my 4 years as governor. But that is solely because that will set up the next 30 years of dynamic growth for the future of our state.
Thank you very much. What specific steps would you take to make Florida more affordable, particularly regarding housing and property insurance?
When it comes to, I'll take the second one first. When it comes to property insurance, the tort reform that Governor DeSantis put into place about 3 years ago is beginning to work. We've seen the loss ratio in our insurance companies are coming down. What I would anticipate this year is that the insurance companies in Florida are going to request rate decreases, which will directly impact the pocketbooks of Floridians. But there is still more to do. The regulatory side of Florida's insurance market has not been changed in 25 years. The last real change happened after Hurricane Wilma, and before that, there was really no substantive changes since the Florida Catastrophe Fund was created after Hurricane Andrew. When I was in the State House, I chaired the Insurance and Banking Subcommittee, so I'm well versed not just in the policy framework that is Florida's insurance market, but also with my experience in the private sector, specifically in the finance world. I have an economics background that's second to none of anybody who is running to be the state's next governor. So when it comes to insurance, we're going to do a couple of things. We are going to reform the regulatory side of our insurance framework. I believe that we have an ability to push insurance costs down 20% in the state of Florida. We could also do more, along with making sure that we are using home hardening programs even more effectively than they are today, so that older homes can actually be more secure, lowering their risk profile. When it comes to housing costs, we want to reform permitting and planning in the state of Florida. 30% of the cost of a new home is government permitting and planning timelines. We need to decrease the wait time to build projects and also streamline the permitting side of building housing. When I worked in commercial banking, I looked at the entire draw schedule. It was not just constructing the property, it was also the timeline of dealing with governments. Government has to realize that if we are efficient on the permitting side, we can actually decrease the cost of housing, and a decrease in the cost of constructing housing directly lends itself to decreasing the cost for people who buy homes and for people who rent homes. Because if you're building an apartment
15
complex,
more seconds, sir.
it matters
Yep.
both ways.
Okay.
So those are some of the constructive ways that we can lower both housing costs and lower insurance costs in Florida.
Undergrad and Georgetown Law for my law degree. My background is in civil rights and government law. I know what it looks like when government works for the people and what it looks like when it works against the people. I'm running because I want to make government work for us, not against us, and I want it to work for everybody, not just the 1%. I was raised by a pastor and a nurse who taught me to take care of and stand up for people, and that's why I'm running, for the people. Across our state, people are tired. They are tired of working hard and not being able to afford just the basic necessities and make ends meet. We're tired of the culture wars at home and the foreign wars abroad. It's time to focus on us, and that's exactly what I want to do. I'll also say that part of the reason I'm in this race is because Mayor Demings had to step away. This was not on my bingo card, but when I saw what our current options were, I thought it was important for us to have another option on the Democratic side, as well as ultimately in the general.
Thank you very much. We will now begin with our moderator section. You will be asked 5 questions, and you'll have 90 seconds to respond to each question. Carolyn Moore will serve as our official timekeeper and will provide time cues throughout the interview. Following the moderator's questions, you will have an opportunity to answer questions submitted by our audience members, which Commissioner Cynthia Chestnut will facilitate. With that said, Representative Joseph, let's begin with our first question. Share with our audience why you are seeking to serve as Florida's next governor and what your vision and top priorities for the state are over the next 4 years.
Thank you. I feel like over the past 3 decades, we have suffered under Republican rule. And what has that gotten us? Everything has gotten more expensive. The American dream is increasingly out of reach. And it's time for us to turn the page in Florida. So I'm asking you to help me do that. Instead of what we see, we need to transition to a politics of hate to one of love, where government is about serving the people, not just milking them, and making life harder. Floridians need leadership that understands that immigrants are not the enemy, that seniors are not a burden, but a blessing, that climate change is real, and our democracy is worth saving. That's why I'm running. So my top 3 priorities are, number 1 is affordability. Whether we're talking about housing, healthcare, insurance, gas, or groceries, most of the policies that I have filed in the legislature speak directly to those issues. Some have to make decisions between paying for healthcare, food, or housing, and it all costs too much. I know exactly why. Out-of-state hedge funds and corporate landlords have bought up entire blocks of Florida homes. I have proposed legislation called the Real Affordable Housing Act that specifically addresses things like that, as well as the use of artificial intelligence to create fake scarcity by increasing rent prices, using algorithms. And these things, what they do is they drive up the rents for people in a way that just makes it unaffordable. And they don't care if actually people are there. We need to make sure that we
spend years climbing the political ladder or waiting for a title before deciding to make a difference. I'm just a regular Floridian who loves this state and loves people. Those of you all who don't know me know that I've had to build my life from the bottom up. I've experienced homelessness, I've experienced addiction, I've experienced even incarceration. But through the grace of God, I've been able to turn my life around and become an asset to this community. My name is Desmond Meade, and I am running for governor as a no-party affiliated candidate because I do believe that Floridians deserve much better leadership than what is happening now.
Thank you very much. We will now begin with our moderator questions. You'll have 5 questions, 90 seconds to respond to each question. Carolyn Moore will be our official timekeeper, and she'll provide time cues throughout your interview. Following the moderator questions, you'll have the opportunity to answer questions submitted by our audience members, which Commissioner Cynthia Chestnut will facilitate. Mr. Meade, our first question is, share with our audience why you are seeking to serve as Florida's next governor, and what is your vision and top priorities for the state over the next 4 years?
Thank you. The reason why I'm running to serve as governor for the state of Florida is because, first of all, I think Floridians deserve much stronger leadership than what it's been having. I think for far too long, over 80% of the state have been living without a governor that even sees them, that even cares about whether they live or die, right? Whether they have solutions to everyday problems that people are facing. I'm running because I think both political people of Florida and have spent more time engaging in partisan wars or in culture wars than actually addressing the issues that actually impact real Floridians. And what those issues are, very easy. Accountability, right? The economy, affordability, and even healthcare. Those issues have been plaguing the state of Florida for decades. And we have not seen solutions when I know that there are real everyday solutions that's there, but for the politics that gets in the way, it prevents people from getting the real relief that we want. And so at times, I believe that we're at a moment now where people are just tired of politics and tired of the same old promises that's being given to our communities, and no one has ever returned an investment or returned on any kind of promises that they've made. We've not seen any gains. We've just been going further and further back. We've seen the losses that we've had over the last 2 administrations, and it's time for a change. I really do believe that.
Thank you. What specific steps would you take to make Florida more affordable, particularly regarding housing and property insurance?
Okay, thank you. As far as the relief, the housing and property insurance, I have one of the things that I think gives me an advantage is real life experience. I've been 10 years, I've actually experienced homelessness. And so I've gone from being homeless to actually being a homeowner, to having to deal with property taxes, having to deal with homeowners insurance, right? And one of the things that I see is where our government has allowed big businesses and corporations, whatever, to actually just take advantage of Floridians to a point to where we're actually left holding the bill. one of the phrases I use is what's in your wallet, right? How much money is coming in your wallet and how much money is being taken out of your wallet. When we're seeing that we have developers that are promising to create properties or create spaces for affordable housing, and they're refusing to do so, they're reneging on their agreement, and the government is not holding them responsible. Now we're having first responders, teachers, right, law enforcement that are forced to live in counties, right, that they don't even serve in because of the cost of living. We're seeing people who have experienced homelessness. 1 out of every 3 families is 1 paycheck away from being homeless, right? But yet, instead of we're creating housing for them, we are criminalizing homelessness and pushing our homeless population to the fringes of our population, to where now they're living in the woods, at the edges of our community. All of that happens because we have given our taxpayers' dollars to developers to develop properties who promises to allocate a certain percentage of homes to make them affordable housing. And then after they finish developing the property, guess what they do? They renege on their promise. And instead of allocating 30% of the homes, they only allocate 10% of the homes. That does nothing but exasperates our homeless issues. As it relates to homeowners insurance, the same thing is happening. We made a deal. We go into agreement with insurance companies, and we say we give you our money, and you promise that if something happened to our homes, you would fix it. But what happens when we give them the money? They take our
15
money, they
seconds.
invest. Say it again, ma'am.
Yeah, 15 seconds.
All right. They take our money, invest, they make money, but when it's time to pay or to fix our homes, they renege, they pack up the shop, and they leave the state. And our elected officials allow them to do that time after time again, leaving us holding the bag. Those are things that exasperates the problems.
Thank you. What are your top priorities?